My name is Alyssa Bennett. I'm 38 years old. And the strangest thing about the moment your life begins to collapse is that it does not always arrive with screaming. Sometimes it arrives softly. A little glow from a tablet screen. A single notification. A name you recognize before your mind is ready to understand why it hurts. I was standing in my kitchen at 8:16 on a Thursday night, helping Emma finish her math homework, when Marcus's tablet lit up beside the fruit bowl. Emma was chewing the end of her pencil, frowning at a subtraction problem like it had personally betrayed her. "Mom, is this regrouping?" she asked. I leaned over her shoulder, smiling because she still called me Mom when she was frustrated, even though I had never carried her, even though Marcus always said biology did not matter. Then the tablet buzzed again. The screen flashed. Vanessa Cole. I still feel you on me. For a second, I did not move. The kitchen stayed exactly the same. The refrigerator hummed. Emma tapped her pencil. Rain ticked softly against the window over the sink. But something inside me went silent. Vanessa Cole was Marcus's ex-girlfriend. The woman he said was ancient history. The woman he said only texted him because they had unfinished financial stuff from years ago. I picked up the tablet with fingers that suddenly did not feel like mine. Emma looked up. "Are you okay?" I smiled because children should not have to watch adults fall apart in real time. "Yes, baby," I whispered. "I'm fine. Go finish this in your room, okay? I need to make a quick call." She gathered her worksheet and skipped away. Still innocent, still safe, still living in the house I thought I had built with a man who loved me. The moment her bedroom door closed, I opened the messages. I should not have known his passcode. But I did. Emma's birthday. The irony nearly made me laugh. At first, I only saw fragments, little pieces of a life I had not been invited into. Hotel names. Heart emojis. Photos I wish I had never seen. Messages sent at midnight while Marcus was supposedly asleep beside me. Then I kept scrolling. 3 months. No. 6. Number. Longer. The affair had not started suddenly. It had grown roots in the dark. Vanessa telling Marcus that Alyssa doesn't understand you. Marcus replying, "She never really did." Vanessa asking if he still loved me. Marcus saying, "I love what she provides. That's different." I stared at that sentence until the words blurred. What she provides. The mortgage I paid. The insurance I covered. The school fees I never complained about. The vacations I planned because Marcus said Emma deserved memories. I was not his partner. I was the structure, holding up the life he was quietly preparing to abandon. Then I found the receipts. The same downtown hotel. Same room number. Again and again. Afternoons when he said he had client meetings. Nights when he said he was helping his mother. One weekend when he told me he was taking Emma to a robotics workshop, except the messages showed Emma had been dropped at Carol's house, while Marcus spent 2 days with Vanessa. My stomach turned cold. Carol knew. Of course she knew. Her messages were there too, folded into the betrayal like a ribbon around a knife. Mom says I deserve happiness. Mom says Alyssa is too ambitious to be soft. Mom says you need a woman who makes you feel like a man again. Carol Hale, who hugged me every Sunday. Carol, whose medical bills I helped pay when Marcus said she was too proud to ask. Carol, who called me the daughter I never had. She had been sitting at my table, eating food I cooked, smiling at me while helping her son sharpen the story that would destroy me. Then Lauren's name appeared. My older sister. My blood. Vanessa wrote, "Lauren almost asked why you were texting me during Thanksgiving." Marcus answered, "I told her it was about Alyssa's birthday surprise. She believed me." But a few lines later, Vanessa wrote, "Does Lauren know more than she's saying?" Marcus replied, "She knows enough to stay quiet." I put the tablet down because my hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The room tilted. My sister knew enough. That was worse than knowing everything, because it meant she had seen smoke and chosen not to look for fire. Then came the message that cracked something deeper than betrayal. Marcus, we need to talk about Emma eventually. Are you still worried Alyssa has legal rights? Marcus, she raised her, but she's not blood. And if the test proves what you think? Marcus, then Alyssa loses the last thing tying her to me. I stopped breathing. Emma. My Emma. The little girl whose fevers I had cooled with wet cloths. The child who slept on my chest during thunderstorms. The child who once handed me a crayon drawing of 3 stick figures and said, "That's our family." Marcus had known there was a chance she was not mine, and he had let me love her anyway. No, not let me. Used me. I screenshotted everything. Messages, receipts, hotel confirmations, photos, bank charges, deleted emails, every little brick in the wall they had built around my humiliation. By the time Marcus's car pulled into the driveway, it was almost midnight. He walked in wearing the navy coat I bought him last Christmas. His hair was neat, his face calm, his smile easy. "You're still awake," he said. I looked at him. This man I had slept beside. This man whose coffee I made every morning. This man who had kissed my forehead at breakfast and told me he loved me while planning how to erase me from my own family. "Long day?" I asked. He sighed, convincing as ever. "Exhausting. Mom needed help with some paperwork." "Carol." The lie came so smoothly, I almost admired it. He leaned down and kissed my cheek. Vanessa's perfume was on his collar. Soft.
Expensive. Unmistakable.
Marcus started toward the stairs. "I'm going to shower." Of course he was. He needed to wash her off before climbing into the bed I paid for. I sat alone in the kitchen, with his tablet glowing in front of me, listening to water run upstairs. And for the first time in 12 years, I understood something with perfect clarity. My life had not fallen apart tonight. It had been falling apart for months. Tonight was just the night I finally heard it break. The next morning felt quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet in the way a house feels after something has already died inside it. Emma was humming while she ate her cereal, swinging her legs under the table like nothing in the world could touch her. I watched her longer than I should have, memorizing the way her hair fell into her eyes, the way she frowned when the milk got too soggy. I didn't know yet what I was about to lose. Marcus came down dressed for the gym. Of course he did. Routine. Normalcy. The performance had to continue. "Morning," he said, kissing the top of Emma's head. "Hey, Peanut," Emma beamed. "You coming to my school thing tomorrow?" "Wouldn't miss it," he said without hesitation. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, "Emma, honey, can you take your bowl to the sink and grab your backpack? I want to talk to Marcus for a minute." She looked between us, sensing something, but she nodded and disappeared down the hall. The second her bedroom door clicked shut, I stood up. "Sit." Marcus froze, not because I raised my voice, because I never did, not like that. "What's wrong?" he asked slowly. I walked over to the kitchen table and turned the tablet toward him. Then I slid the stack of printed screenshots across the wood, one by one, like I was presenting evidence in a courtroom. His eyes dropped, stayed there. For 3 seconds. 5. 10. Then he exhaled. Not shock, not guilt, annoyance. "You went through my private messages?" he said. I blinked at him. Of all the things he could have said, "That's your first response?" My voice came out quieter than I expected. Not, "I'm sorry," not, "I messed up." That? "You violated my privacy, Alyssa." I laughed then, a short, hollow sound that didn't feel like it belonged to me. "Marcus, you've been sleeping with your ex-girlfriend in hotel rooms I paid for." "That's not room 412, I cut in softly. 23 times. Should I keep going? His jaw tightened. The calculation started. Deny, deflect, minimize. I could see it happening in real time. "It wasn't like that," he said finally. "You're taking things out of context." "Out of context?" I picked up one photo and held it up. "Is this out of context? Or this one?" He didn't look. "I was going to tell you." "When?" I asked. "After you moved her into my house?" Silence. Then the pivot. The shift I hadn't expected to feel so rehearsed. "You've been distant for a long time," Marcus said, his tone changing, softening into something almost patient. "You work all the time. You don't see me anymore." I stared at him. You're serious? I'm just saying there were issues before this. I paid for this house, Marcus. Money isn't everything. I paid for Emma's school. You think throwing money at things replaces connection? I built this life for us. And I've been suffocating in it, he snapped. There it was, the script, the justification. You were never here, Alyssa. Not really. You stopped trying. My hands went still. Stopped trying. I brought you coffee every morning. That's routine. I stayed up with you when your mom was sick. That's obligation. I planned our vacations. Because you needed control over everything. The words hit harder than the betrayal, because they were so carefully chosen, so clean, so practiced. You told Vanessa I don't understand you, I said quietly. He didn't answer. You told her I only provide. Still nothing. You told her you love what I give you, not me. His eyes flickered then, just for a second. Guilt. Or maybe just irritation that I had read that part. It's complicated, he muttered. No, I said. It's not. The doorbell rang. We both turned. Marcus exhaled slowly. Of course. Of course there was timing. I walked to the door before he could stop me, and when I opened it, Vanessa Cole was standing there. Perfect. Composed. Like she had walked out of a magazine instead of into someone else's life. Hi, Alyssa, she said gently, like we were acquaintances at a brunch. We should talk. Of course we should. Come in, I said. She stepped inside without hesitation, like she belonged there. Like she had been there before, which, based on the messages, she had. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. Vanessa, maybe this isn't... It's better if we're all honest, she said calmly. Honest. The word almost made me choke. Vanessa sat at the table across from me, folding her hands neatly. I know this is a shock, she began. A shock? I repeated. We didn't plan for it to happen this way. There it was again. We. We fell in love, Alyssa. I looked at Marcus. He didn't deny it, didn't even flinch, just stood there like this was a conversation about logistics, not destruction. And you thought, I said slowly, the best way to handle that was to lie to me for months? Vanessa's expression softened, almost sympathetic. You wouldn't have understood. I laughed again, that hollow sound. You don't get to decide what I understand. We were trying to figure things out first. In my house? In a complicated situation. Sleeping together in hotel rooms I paid for is complicated? Marcus stepped in then, like he needed control back. Stop twisting everything. Twisting? I turned to him. You've been building a second life behind my back. That's not fair. Fair? My voice cracked for the first time. You're talking about fair? Vanessa leaned forward slightly. We didn't want to hurt you. I went still. Then I whispered, You didn't want to hurt me. So you made sure I didn't find out. Silence. Heavy, thick, suffocating. And then, another knock at the door. My stomach dropped, because I already knew. I opened it. Lauren stood there. My sister, her face tight, carefully neutral. Alyssa, she said, we need to calm down and talk about this rationally. Something inside me shifted. Not cracked, not broke. Shifted. Like a final piece clicking into place. You knew, I said. Lauren hesitated, just for a fraction of a second, and that was enough. It's not what you think, she said quickly. Marcus exhaled in relief. Vanessa looked down, and I realized then, I wasn't just being betrayed. I was being managed. Come inside, I said quietly. Lauren stepped in, closed the door behind her, and just like that, I was outnumbered. Lauren didn't even look at the evidence right away. She looked at me, like she was trying to measure how far gone I was. Alyssa, she said gently, you need to breathe. I let out a slow exhale. Not because she told me to. Because if I didn't, I might start screaming. My boyfriend is sleeping with his ex, I said, my voice eerily steady. In hotel rooms I paid for months, and you're telling me to breathe. It's not that simple. Of course it wasn't. It never is, when the truth makes people uncomfortable. I gestured to the table. Then make it simple for me. Lauren finally looked down. At the screenshots. At the photos. At the receipts. Her eyes moved quickly. Too quickly. She wasn't surprised. That was the moment something inside my chest went cold. You knew, I said again. This time, it wasn't a question. Lauren sighed. Alyssa, Marcus told me some of it. Some of it, I repeated. He said you've been having problems for a long time. I laughed under my breath. Of course he did. And that justifies this? I'm not saying that, she said quickly. I'm saying you're reacting emotionally right now, and you need to think. My boyfriend is having sex with another woman, I cut in, sharper now. What would you like me to feel? Gratitude? Marcus stepped forward, irritation creeping into his voice. Can we stop with the dramatics?
Dramatics.
I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I had loved. This man who now sounded inconvenienced. I'm just trying to have a conversation like adults, he added. Adults? I echoed softly. Adults lie for 6 months and coordinate their stories? Vanessa shifted in her seat. Lauren crossed her arms. Marcus exhaled like I was exhausting him. And suddenly, I saw it. They had talked about this. Not just the affair. This moment. What to say. How to say it. How to make me doubt myself. You planned this, I whispered. No one answered. Which was answer enough. Lauren stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was calming a child. You're spiraling. I almost smiled. Am I? Yes, she said firmly. You're taking things out of proportion. I reached for one of the printed screenshots and slid it toward her. It was a message. Marcus, once everything's settled, Alyssa will be out of the picture. And Emma? Marcus, we'll figure it out. She's not even biologically hers anyway. Lauren's eyes flickered. Just for a second. But I saw it. You knew about that too? I asked. No, she started. Don't lie to me again. Her jaw tightened. I knew there were questions. Questions. About my daughter. My throat closed. You let me raise her, I said, my voice dropping. You watched me love her. And you said nothing. It wasn't my place. You're my sister. The words shattered out of me before I could stop it. The room went silent. Heavy. Thick. Marcus ran a hand over his face. This is getting out of control. No, I said quietly. It's finally making sense. Vanessa stood up slowly. Alyssa, we didn't come here to fight. Then why are you here? I asked. To be honest. I stared at her. Honest would have been telling me 6 months ago. She didn't flinch. We didn't know what we wanted yet. You knew enough to lie. Marcus stepped closer now, his tone sharpening. You're acting like a victim. I turned to him. I am a victim. No, he said flatly. You're someone who checked out of this relationship a long time ago. The words hit harder than anything else he'd said, because they weren't shouted. They were calm.
Final.
You stopped seeing me, Alyssa, he continued. You buried yourself in work. You stopped trying to connect. I was building our future, I whispered. And I was drowning in it. Silence. Then Lauren spoke again, softer now. You need to consider that maybe this didn't happen in a vacuum. I let out a slow breath. They were good. I'd give them that. Twisting reality. Rewriting the narrative. Making me question my own memories. My own love. My own effort. For a second, just one, I almost felt it. The doubt. The what if. What if I had worked less? What if I had noticed sooner? What if I had been better? Then I looked at the table again. At the messages. At the photos. At the receipts. At the line where Marcus said, I was just someone who provided. And the doubt burned away. No, I said. All three of them looked at me. No what? Marcus asked. No more rewriting this. I straightened, my voice steady again. You don't get to turn this into a story where I'm the problem. Alyssa, Lauren started. I'm not done. She fell silent. I worked hard, I continued. Yes, I paid the bills. I kept this house running. I loved you. I looked at Marcus. I chose you. Every single day. He didn't respond. And you, I turned to Lauren, chose silence. Her face hardened. I didn't want to get involved. You were already involved. Vanessa stepped in again, trying to regain control. This isn't productive. You're right, I said. And then I pulled out my phone. 3 faces. 3 different reactions.
Confusion. Annoyance. A flicker of unease.
I'm done talking, I said. Marcus frowned. What are you doing? I'm calling my lawyer. That landed. Hard. You're overreacting, he snapped. Am I? Yes, this doesn't have to be a war. It already is. Vanessa's voice cooled. You're going to destroy everything over this? I met her gaze. You already did. Lauren stepped forward quickly. Think about Emma. There it was. The final card. The one they thought would stop me. My chest tightened. But I didn't look away. I am thinking about her, I said quietly. Then don't do this, she pressed. You'll traumatize her. I swallowed. God, that almost broke me. Because she was right about one thing. Emma would be hurt. No matter what I did. But then, I remembered the message. She's not even biologically hers anyway. And something inside me hardened. I want a DNA test, I said. The room went completely still. Marcus's face changed first. Not anger. Not annoyance. Fear. Vanessa went pale. Lauren's lips parted slightly. No, Marcus said immediately. Absolutely not. Why not? I asked softly. Because it's cruel. Or because you already know the answer. That's not the point. It is the point. Lauren shook her head. Alyssa, this is too far. Too far? I repeated. Sleeping with his ex wasn't too far? Lying for months wasn't too far? Letting me raise a child you all had doubts about wasn't too far? No one spoke. That silence said everything. I want the truth, I said. Marcus stepped closer, his voice low now, almost threatening. You're going to ruin a little girl's life because your ego is bruised? The words landed like a slap, but I didn't flinch. I'm going to find out if I've been living a lie, I said. Vanessa crossed her arms. And what if you have? What does that change? Everything. Nothing. I didn't answer, because I didn't know which one was worse. But I knew one thing. I'm done being the only one in this room who doesn't know the truth. Silence stretched.
Tight. Uncomfortable.
And then Marcus said quietly, if you do this, there's no coming back. I looked at him. Really looked at him. At the man who had already left me long before this moment. There's nothing to come back to, I said. And for the first time since this started, he didn't have a response. The DNA results came 3 weeks later. 3 weeks of living in a version of hell I didn't know existed. Marcus didn't leave the house. Not at first. He moved differently, though, like a guest waiting for the right moment to stop pretending he belonged there. He slept on the edge of the bed, took calls outside, started locking his phone. Vanessa didn't hide anymore. She texted him openly, called him at night. Once I heard him laugh in the kitchen at 1 a.m., a soft, familiar laugh I hadn't heard in months, and it felt like someone had reached into my chest and twisted something until it snapped. Lauren kept checking in. Not to apologize. To manage. Alyssa, you should think about how you're handling this. Alyssa, dragging this out will only hurt Emma. Alyssa, maybe you should talk to someone. Not once did she say, I'm sorry I knew. Carol stopped pretending entirely. She came over one afternoon, sat at my table like she had every Sunday for years, and said, "You need to let Marcus go gracefully."
Gracefully.
As if I was the one making this ugly. As if I was the disruption. "You're still young," she added. "You'll rebuild."
Rebuild.
Like I was a structure that had simply collapsed on its own. I didn't argue. Not anymore. Because I was done trying to explain reality to people who had already rewritten it. Emma was the only thing that kept me steady. She still hugged me the same way. Still called me Mom without hesitation. Still asked if I would be at her school concert next week. And every time she did, something inside me cracked just a little more. Because I didn't know how long I had left. The email came at 2:43 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was at work, staring at a screen, pretending I could focus. My phone buzzed.
Unknown number.
Lab results attached. For a second, I didn't open it. Because as long as I didn't see it, there was still a version of the world where nothing changed. Then I tapped the screen. And everything changed anyway. Probability of maternity? 0.00%. I didn't feel the moment it broke. There was no dramatic collapse. No scream. Just silence. A kind of hollow, endless silence that swallowed everything inside me. 6 years. 6 years of lullabies. Of scraped knees. Of bedtime stories. Of, "Mom, look at me." Gone. Or worse. Still there, but no longer mine. I stood up too fast. The room tilted. I barely made it to the bathroom before I threw up. Not from the shock. From the understanding. Marcus had known. Maybe not with certainty. But enough. Enough to write those messages. Enough to plan around it. Enough to build a future where I would be removable. I pressed my forehead against the cold tile and let myself breathe. In. Out. In. Out. Because if I didn't, I might not start again. I called my lawyer first. My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. "I got the results," I said. A pause. Then, "I'm sorry. I want to withdraw custody." The words tasted like ash. "You're sure?" he asked carefully. "No legal claim," I said. "No biological connection." A longer pause. "There may still be arguments, emotional bonds, established role. I don't want to fight for something they'll take away anyway."
Silence.
Then a quiet, "Okay." I hung up. And for a moment, I just sat there, in a bathroom stall, holding a phone, trying to understand how you could love someone so completely and still lose them entirely. When I got home, Marcus was waiting. Of course he was. He always knew when something had shifted. "You got the results," he said. Not a question. I nodded. He studied my face, looking for something.
Anger. Relief. Weakness.
"I'm sorry," he said finally. I almost smiled. Because it was the first time he had said those words. And it meant nothing. "You knew," I said. He hesitated. "Not for sure, but enough." He didn't deny it. Vanessa stepped into the hallway behind him. Already there. Already closer. Already part of the house. "I think it's best if we figure out next steps calmly," she said.
Calmly.
Always calmly. I looked at both of them. At the life they had been building in the shadows. At the future they had planned. Without me. "I've already started," I said. Marcus frowned. Started what? Ending this. His jaw tightened. "This doesn't have to be a disaster. It already is." Vanessa crossed her arms. "We can handle this like adults." I met her gaze. "Adults don't do what you did." A flicker of irritation crossed her face. Finally. Something real. Lauren arrived an hour later. Of course she did. Drawn in like this was just another scene in a story she thought she understood. She took one look at my face and knew. "It's negative," she said softly. I nodded. For a second, Something like guilt flickered in her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced with that same careful neutrality. "I'm sorry," she said. "Too late. Too small. Too empty." "Don't be," I replied. She blinked. "I'm serious," I said. "Don't be sorry now. Be sorry 6 months ago." She flinched. "Good." Marcus stepped in. "We need to talk about Emma." My chest tightened. There it was. The real conversation. "I've withdrawn custody," I said. Lauren's head snapped up. "You what?" "It's not my place anymore." "That's not how this works," she said quickly. "You raised her. And you all knew I might not be her mother," I cut in.
Silence. Heavy. Final.
Marcus ran a hand through his hair. "She still sees you as her mom." My throat closed. "Then you should have thought about that before." Vanessa spoke, quieter now. "We'll make sure she's okay." I looked at her. At the woman who had stepped into my life like it was something she could rearrange. "You don't get to promise me anything about her." For the first time. She didn't respond. Emma called me that night. From Marcus's phone. "Mom?" her small voice said. And that was it. That was the moment I broke. Not when I saw the results. Not when I confronted Marcus. Not when I realized everyone had known. This. Her voice. Soft.
Confused.
"Why are you not home?" she asked. "Daddy says you're busy, but you're always busy. When are you coming back?" I pressed my hand over my mouth. Because if I spoke, I would shatter. "I miss you," she whispered. I closed my eyes. Tears slipped down, silent. "I miss you too, baby," I managed. A pause. Then, quietly, "Vanessa's here a lot now." Of course she was. "Mommy says she's helping." Mommy. She still called me that. "She's nice," Emma added, like she was trying to make me feel better. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. "That's good," I said. But before I could say anything else, the line went dead. Marcus. "Of course." I stared at the screen. At the call that had already ended. And I realized something then. The DNA test didn't take Emma away from me. It just gave everyone else permission to. 6 months later, I saw them again. Not online. Not through someone else's version of the story. In real life. The kind of encounter you can't prepare for, no matter how many times you've replayed it in your head. It was a Saturday morning. A grocery store 2 miles from the house I used to live in. I was standing in the cereal aisle, staring at a box Emma used to beg me for, chocolate stars with too much sugar and a cartoon astronaut on the front, when I heard her voice. "Dad, can we get this one?" My entire body went still. Slowly, carefully, I turned. Marcus stood there.
Casual. Comfortable.
Like nothing in his life had ever broken. Vanessa was beside him, one hand resting lightly on his arm, the other holding a basket filled with things I used to buy. And between them, Emma. She looked taller. Her hair, longer. Her smile, quieter. For a second, she didn't see me, and I had time to look at her the way I used to. Memorize her. The curve of her cheeks. The way she shifted her weight when she was thinking. The tiny habit of tucking her sleeve into her palm when she felt unsure. Then her eyes lifted, and she saw me. Everything changed in an instant. "Mom!" The word slipped out of her before she could stop it. Before they could stop it. Her face lit up. Pure instinct. Pure love. She took a step toward me, and Marcus's hand closed around her shoulder. Not rough, but firm.
Controlling.
Enough. Emma froze, confusion flickering across her face. Vanessa leaned down slightly, her voice soft but sharp in a way only a child would feel. "Emma," she murmured, "remember what we talked about?" Emma's smile faltered. Just a little. But I saw it. God, I saw it. And something inside me quietly shattered. I didn't move, didn't speak. Because suddenly, I understood the rules. They had rewritten me, not just as someone who left, but as someone she shouldn't run to. Marcus looked at me then. Our eyes met. No guilt. No apology. Just a kind of calm detachment. Like I was someone from a past version of his life. Alyssa, he said, nodding once.
Formal. Distant.
I almost laughed. 6 years. And now I was just Alyssa. Emma looked between us, her small fingers curling into the fabric of her shirt. Can I? She started. She didn't finish, because she already knew the answer. Vanessa's hand settled gently, too gently, on her back. We should keep moving, she said. Like I wasn't standing right there. Like I wasn't watching my entire life walk away in real time. Emma hesitated, just for a heartbeat. Then she looked at me again. And this time, she didn't smile. She just looked, like she was trying to remember something she wasn't allowed to hold on to anymore. Bye, she whispered. It wasn't Mom. It wasn't anything. Just bye. Marcus guided her forward. Vanessa followed. And just like that, they were gone. I stood there in the cereal aisle, surrounded by bright colors and artificial happiness, holding a box of something Emma used to love, and realized I didn't even know if she still liked it anymore. They got married 2 months after the results. Beach wedding.
Cabo.
I know because people sent me pictures. Not out of cruelty. Out of that strange, thoughtless instinct people have to share things they think you deserve to know. Emma was the flower girl. White dress. Little shoes. Perfect smile. But her eyes didn't reach it. Lauren wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. Jake had left her weeks earlier, once everything became official. Another quiet collapse. Another life rearranged. She called me once, crying, saying she didn't know how things got so out of control. I listened for exactly 30 seconds. Then I hung up, because I did know. It got out of control the moment she chose silence over truth. Carol walked Vanessa down the aisle, smiling, proud, like she had finally corrected a mistake. The photos were perfect. Everyone looked happy. The kind of happy that makes other people believe in something that never really existed. I moved. Smaller place.
Quieter.
Different part of town. I changed jobs. Not because I wanted to, because I had to. Rumors travel fast when someone decides to rewrite your story before you can tell it yourself. Unstable. Cold. Obsessed with control. I heard all of it. From people who had smiled at me before. From people who never once asked if any of it was true. I stopped correcting them, because truth doesn't matter once a better story takes its place. I work nights now. Less noise. Less people. Less memory. Sometimes, in the quiet hours between midnight and sunrise, I think about Emma, about the things I'll never see. Her first real heartbreak. Her graduation. The way she'll look at herself in the mirror one day and wonder who she got her smile from. And she won't think of me, because she's being taught not to. I saw them one last time. A few weeks ago.
Parking lot.
Late afternoon. Vanessa was pregnant. Marcus had his hand on her back, protective, proud. Emma walked beside them. A little older. A little more distant. She looked up, saw me. And for a second, just 1 second, something sparked.
Recognition. Memory.
Something that hadn't been fully erased yet. Her lips parted, like she might say it again, like she might call me. But Vanessa leaned down, whispering something I couldn't hear. And Emma's face changed. The spark went out. Just like that. She looked away, like I was a stranger. And I realized then, this wasn't something that had been taken from me all at once. It was something being erased. Slowly.
Deliberately.
Day by day. Until there would be nothing left. The truth is, I loved her. More than anything. More than myself. More than what was fair. More than what was real. And maybe that was my mistake. Not loving Marcus. Not trusting the wrong people. but loving something so completely that when it was taken away, there was nothing left to hold on to. Marcus got his ending. Vanessa got her family. Carol got her version of happiness. Lauren got to be the victim of a different story. And me? I got the quiet. The empty spaces. The life that keeps going, even when it feels like it shouldn't. The truth is, some people don't land on their feet. Some of us just keep falling through the space where our life used to be.